Coming up, Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church, and he's already breaking the rules. But will he live up to his vow to make the church a poor church? We'll see what the experts have to say.
And decriminalizing pot. Are punishments for marijuana possession too strict? The Maryland Senate is voting today on a controversial bill that could decriminalize the drug. We'll find what people in Maryland have to say. District Wire News starts now.
Good evening, I'm Vivian Roussel.
And I'm Rachel Ray.
The new pope is changing things up. Unlike popes before him, Pope Francis refused to use an elevated stand or the Vatican I Pope-mobile. Instead, he just took the bus. Yi Yang has more on the story.
1.2 billion Roman Catholics have a new leader now as white smoke rose from the chimney above the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican City on March 13th. Cardinal George Bergoglio stepped onto the balcony of the Sistine Chapel to announce that he will take over from Pope Benedict XVI. The cardinal, who will take the name Pope Francis, is the first pope from the New World to lead Roman Catholics. The 76-year-old Argentine cardinal described his wish Saturday to build a poor church for the poor. He also showed his humble side by refusing an elevated platform to speak from and going on a bus with other cardinals from the chapel to the Vatican.
It seems so far that he's a very humble man, and I think that that in and of itself is going to have a profound effect on all priests, religious, and laity around the world. I think they're going to see his example of poverty and his example of humility, and that is going to inspire everyone to live more humbly, to live more simply, and to really see the value of that.
Vice President Joe Biden is arriving for Pope Francis' inauguration on Tuesday. People expected developments between the new pope and the U.S.
Well, I think there'll be more attention paid to the New World, which is North America and South America, where the church is growing, and maybe less attention to Europe, where the church is dying because people have become very secular and frankly given up their religion.
Yi Yang for District Wire News, Washington, D.C.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is endorsing gay marriage. Today, Clinton voiced her support in a 6-minute video released by the Human Rights Campaign, a leading gay rights group. She says she favors same-sex marriage on a personal level and as a matter of law. This marks a shift from Clinton's 2008 campaign, when she supported same-sex civil unions but opposed marriage rights.
Earlier today, President Obama announced his nominee for Labor Secretary. His choice is Tom Perez. Perez currently serves as the Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. The White House is presenting Perez as a champion of social justice issues. During his time at the Justice Department, Perez made a name for himself, leading the agency's challenges to several states' voter ID laws. Perez will take the position if he is confirmed by the Senate.
Israel is preparing for its first visit from President Obama. He will be staying at the King David Hotel, which has already made changes for Passover. While the hotel is increasing security, it's removing breads, cakes, and pasta from the menus. Most restaurants and bars will also be closed during the president's visit. President Obama plans to meet with the Palestinian president and visit the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem.
The University of Central Florida is on high alert after finding explosives and firearms in a dorm. Police found a man dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a dorm room. While investigating the suicide, police found a handgun, an assault weapon, and a bag of explosives in the room. A bomb squad is investigating the explosives, and the police have contacted the FBI. School officials evacuated the dorm and are canceling classes until at least noon.
A judge announced yesterday that the defendants in the Steubenville rape trial were found guilty. 2 Ohio high school football players had been accused of raping a drunk 16-year-old girl. Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine says the case is far from over. A grand jury is meeting in April to continue investigating evidence from dozens of interviews.
The debate on marijuana has come to Maryland. The state Senate is set to vote today on a bill that would ease the punishment for people caught with the small amounts of the drug. Ariana Wallstarter is live in the studio with more. Ariana?
Maryland continues to hold strong on its democratic stance. The state has already legalized same-sex marriage and abolished the death penalty. Now, with the success of Washington and Colorado's legalization of marijuana, it looks like Maryland could continue down that liberal path. Maryland Senate is voting on legislation today that would decriminalize the possession of small amounts of marijuana. Currently, people who are caught with up to 10 grams, 1/3 of an ounce, can face up to 90 days in jail along with a $500 fine. If the bill passes, the law would reduce to no jail time and a maximum of $100.
I think it will definitely benefit Maryland because it will free up the court system in terms of legal dollars that are being spent on probably minimal, if not no crime, really recreational sort of use, or I don't know, we didn't even call it medical use, but I think it's a good thing because it impacts people's lives so negatively for such a non-issue, in my opinion.
The bill is expected to pass and will be reviewed by the House of Delegates. Maryland will be joining the 24 other states that are changing their marijuana laws.
I think increasingly people are thinking that it's not a terrible thing, and people are wanting, there's more and more people supportive of decriminalization.
The House is also considering a measure that would legalize medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is currently legal in 11 other states. Lawmakers across the country are taking public opinion polls on the matter. For District Wire News, thank you, Vivian.
Maryland is planning to be the 18th state to ban the death penalty. Maryland lawmakers voted to ban the death penalty last Friday. Governor Martin O'Malley says he will sign the ban, which will replace capital punishment with life sentences without parole. We'll have a full report and an expert guest on the death penalty coming up later in the show.
The Hyattsville City Council is meeting tonight to vote on legislation that would increase the number of speed cameras in the city. Jordan Derry was in Hyattsville and has the report.
The Hyattsville City Council will be voting on increasing the amount of speed cameras in school zones today. The vote will call for an emergency action for more cameras. The council first approved speed cameras last April. All 5 went up around school zones. The increase would mean that there will be up to 10 speed cameras in school zones.
Although there haven't been many accidents, even in school zones like these, residents and students agree that speed cameras might be a good thing.
I think it'll be safer for people just trying to run out here, because I'm out here all the time and there are people always speeding by.
Adding 5 cameras would mean the amount in the city would double. The 5 already in place take pictures of the license plates of cars going 12 miles per hour over the speed limit. One student of a local high school says he thinks that adding more might be too much.
It's okay. I think they should take it down a few notches.
The new cameras would not be going up all at once. Instead, the action would allow for the council to put up cameras as needed without having to request more. Currently, the council has to wait a maximum of 20 days for the whole legislative process before adding a new camera. By getting this legislation approved now, the council will not have to reconvene every time they felt a new camera should go up. If approved, the 5 extra cameras will go up in any school zone at any time the city feels like it's necessary. For District Wire News, I'm Jordan Derry.
Don't expect improvements to Washington's metro system anytime soon. The Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority says it expects to lose $8 million in federal money because of the sequester. That could delay its plans to replace and renovate trains and buy new buses. The federal spending cuts will also postpone Metro's project to allow riders to pay for fares with credit cards.
The National Archives is the latest target of the sequestration. Starting Friday, federal spending cuts will force the archives to stay open to the public fewer hours. That includes public research rooms and exhibits of the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the U.S. Constitution.
Women's rights advocates are protesting in Washington today in support of immigrant women. Several hundred protesters came to Capitol Hill Presbyterian Church this morning to kick off a week of immigration rallies in the nation's capital. Protesters say they want to address unbalanced policies that impact women. Immigrant women are stripped of access to health care and see their families torn apart by deportation.
We know that immigrant women are the backbones of our families and communities. We're here for comprehensive immigration policy reform that prioritizes and includes the needs of immigrant women, who are over 50% of immigrants in this country.
The rally was organized by the National Coalition for Immigrant Women's Rights. The organizers are also attending a Senate hearing today to address the needs of immigrant women and families.
A luxury hotel is being built in Adams Morgan. Developers are building the hotel in the heart of the neighborhood. Local business owners are excited about the potential customers the hotels could bring in. Ariana Wolfsdottir has more on the story.
The historic church in Adams Morgan has been abandoned by its congregation for years. Now developers have a plan for the building that the city of Washington, D.C. approves. A boutique luxury hotel will be built in the heart of Adams Morgan. Developers are using the historic church as a foundation for the hotel.
The plan, of course, is to use the church that was built in 1912, which is a historic preservation building in Washington on Columbia Road at Euclid. And that will serve as the lobby and the registration area and the restaurants. And behind it, where there's a parking lot now, they'll build a tower that will have the sleeping rooms.
Adams Morgan is a popular hotspot in DC nightlife. Businesses like City Bikes are hoping that the new hotel will bring in more customers to the shops in the daytime.
I think there is a chance to bring additional commerce to the area through a hotel.
Developers say they are working hard with the community to build the 227-room luxury hotel.
Right from the beginning, we've worked with the neighborhood associations. We've worked obviously with the Zoning Commission, Historic Preservation. It is very much a project that involves the neighbors in the community as well as the people of Washington, D.C.
For District Wire News, I'm Ariana Wolfsdottir.
Coming up after the break, controversy over the death penalty, this time in Maryland. The State House voted on Friday to ban the death penalty. We've got an in-depth report and expert Professor Richard Stack to join us live in the studio to talk about it.
And minimum wage. We'll show you which mega retailer is opposing a DC council bill that would increase minimum wage for DC workers. Coming up after the break.